And now you've got one of the most recent images that we have seen of Andrew attempting to force his way in, and I think cut off his nephew's chances at saving this monarchy. Remember that photo of him wedging his way in between William and Kate and trying to talk to William and make sure that was recorded and memorialized, and William wanted nothing to do with it. And I think that he is such a danger, such an existential, immediate threat to the future of the British monarchy, that there is no choice. Charles will have to abdicate. You're right. It may not be tomorrow. It'll be maybe in 6 months' time. He'll cite his health. That's what he'll do. The health will be the reason, and William will ascend, and people want William and Catherine. That is what they want.
They do. Turn Buckingham Palace into a museum, still do the pomp and circumstances that the public love, move to a private townhouse, be like the Swedish royal family, scale back, don't take money from the taxpayers, start paying your own taxes here. There's lots of changes that I think William's going to do, and Charles could have done this, and he chose not to. Some people misguidedly are saying he was just being loyal to his brother. That's not true. He was just being weak. He was just being pathetic. People knew about this. It was going on in Buckingham Palace. It's one of the hardest buildings to get in and out of in London, even if you were a member of the royal family. So they all knew who was coming in and out. They've all gossiped.
Who's bringing in whatever they're using to restrain a child and torture her with electrical shocks? What are they using?
I know, and if they're on government payroll, if they're on royal payroll, which they will have been, some of the emails in the Epstein files that alarmed me the most was Epstein talked to one of Andrew's aides within the palace as if he worked for Epstein. He demanded that they have meetings. He demanded that Andrew give private tours of Buckingham Palace. Epstein was in charge of Andrew, and although the sex, the perversion, was a big part of it, my insiders tell me that this foolish, vain prince was treated like a king by Jeffrey Epstein, and he loved it. In Britain, he was always the spare. He was always in the shadow of his brother. With Jeffrey was a master manipulator, and he manipulated Andrew, and Andrew's vanity and ego was so fragile that he let this happen. And in the process, he could bring down the House of Windsor.
You know, this reminds me of Diana's Panorama interview, which is problematic, as we now know, for many reasons. But in that interview, she famously said, Charles does not have what it takes for what she called the top job.
Right.
And at the time, everybody thought this is a bitter, aggrieved, scorned woman who is getting her revenge. But she was right.
Right. She's absolutely right. You know, every job in the world, most jobs in the world, you go through, particularly big jobs like that, you go through an interview process. You're not born into those jobs. There's something fundamentally wrong with the system here. Your monarchy is only as strong as your luck. You got to have good luck. You got to hope that the right one is born first. I think about it. What would happen if Harry was the eldest?
It would definitely be over.
It would be over. And that would just be a fate, a twist of fate. What would happen if Anne had been born first? It would have been a very different monarchy. She wouldn't have tolerated this nonsense. And so to gamble a system...
Well, if Anne had been born first, they didn't change that until William and Catherine.
Right. It was the firstborn.
And William and Catherine pushed for that no matter the gender, the firstborn would then inherit the throne. And if you ever wonder why
there's so few queens of England and so many kings, it's because it was the firstborn boy, not the firstborn child. Mm-hmm. So if you were a girl, if a brother came after you, you weren't queen. He was the king. And so they fixed that. They've got to really now look at the system. You know, Maureen, I've been a royalist my whole life. We grew up in my house that on Christmas Day when the Queen was on the telly, we stood up and saluted. Like I grew up from a little boy just watching her at 2:00 on Christmas Day. She addressed the nation. We had a picture of the Queen in my house. If I'm now at the point where I think this institution doesn't work anymore, I think there's got to be changes. I can only imagine what everybody else is thinking.
In America too, we have such a relationship with the British royal family. I mean, there's a reason that they are a constant topic of conversation here. And I remember as a little girl getting up at the crack of dawn so I could watch Diana's wedding live. I was one of hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of little girls around the world who did that. And we don't want to see it. We don't want to see it abolished. Yeah. We don't want to see it destroyed. But I do think that William is the only hope. And as somebody who has worked for the royals, who has deep sources within both the palace and the police and the pubs. What is it about Charles? What is it that makes him so constitutionally weak? Is it characterological? Did something happen to him? Was it waiting around for that job and his mother to die, which is a very strange thing? Was it he allowed himself to get forced into marrying Diana. They had seen each other like 6 times by the time they got married. He allowed himself as a grown man to be, and then he whined about it. Like, well, they forced me. You're a grown man and you're supposed to be the king. What is it with him?
He literally is the king. He can decide what happens, and he just can't pull the trigger. He just can't do it. He dithers. He's always been a ditherer. And I think
it's very Shakespearean. He's like Hamlet. He's just a ditherer.
Yeah. Just a dither, and you want to shake him and tell him you can do really whatever you want. You're the king. Pick the right thing to do. He's always been a ditherer. He's always doubted himself. I don't think his mom and dad raised him for this job. And so the mom never taught him what the job was. She was so consumed in doing it herself and doing it beautifully, may I add, that she never took him under her wing like an apprentice, like someone she could mentor.
Well, Andrew was always her favorite.
That was her favorite.
And the rumor about Andrew is that he is not Philip's son.
It's very
right.
It's very
that he's
Harry.
One of her horse riders. It's very Harry.
Very Harry.
And perhaps that was the overcompensation. If he wasn't really Philip's son.
And I was told by a really senior royal source who is no longer with us, an elderly gentleman, the reason that the Queen was so sympathetic towards Andrew is she had a very, very open heart about the spare, because she was not meant to be the Queen. Her uncle abdicated, and her father, with the stutter, he became king, and her life changed, and her sister Margaret's life was ruined by that twist of fate. And so she looked at these boys, and you think when you're growing up, you want to be a prince, you want to be a princess. I wouldn't do it for all the money in the world. William here is an absolute hero. He's the future of the monarchy. This is the only silver line. And ballsy, like, he's going to burn that place down. He's going to fix it in a way that his dad and even his grandmother never could.
It's something that the world is dying to see. Is hungry, just wanting to see real strong leadership, like a real man come in there and fix this shit. Oh, and by the way, if I were at Netflix, I would be calling the showrunner at The Crown and being like, we're reviving this thing immediately. Today's show is brought to you by Oxford Natural, home of the all-natural Optimum Day and Optimum Night supplements. Are you trying to lose weight and feel like yourself again? Thousands of men and women across the US and UK are already doing it with Oxford Natural. Optimum Day powers you with steady energy, crushes cravings, and keeps your metabolism firing all day. Optimum Night helps you relax, sleep deeply, recover, and keep burning fat while you rest. England's soccer legend Michael Owen lost 40 pounds, and Robbie, the face of AFTV, dropped over 100 pounds. It's worked for others too, with customer testimonials raving about Oxford Natural's effectiveness. Now it's your turn. Scan the QR code or click the link and grab 70% off your first order with code NERVE. No gimmicks, no needles, just results. Oxford Natural. Let's get to work.